Hey folks, not getting a huge amount of views on videos lately. I think like 3 or 4, but that's something. I'll just do another little video here because I got this from the library, and it's like I was trying to read it online, the classical tradition in the Americas, because it basically shows how they already knew America was here before Columbus. They knew it was the underworld. But online, to download the ebook of this is $601. 601 for a fucking ebook, which costs them nothing. So anyway, I got it from the library though, through interlibrary loan from UCSC, and so that's good. And then I got the Ancient Egyptian Book of Two Ways. Wait, my cat's like wigging out. Anytime I start doing a video, he just hears me doing something without him and he wigs out. Shut up, Oreo. Leave me alone. Alright, we're gonna, I guess, just... Here, go outside, Oreo. Don't you like going outside? It's so fun outside. Go. Bye. Alright. Prima donna cat. Alright. I don't know if that's what that means, but he's a high maintenance fucking annoying cat. Alright, so so this book is very interesting. It has let's see. My glasses. So European Images of the Americas and the Classical Tradition, Part 1. And alright, I don't know where the hell the table of contents is, if there is one. Here, okay. So it has, basically probably all of these articles, these are by different people, but they probably all contain enough evidence that America was already known. But I don't think any of these writers will ever actually say that. They just provide all the evidence, and then, because they don't want to get blacklisted out of academia and everything. So they just say, oh yeah, the people before Columbus, they believed there was a land across the ocean, and that it was on the opposite side of the planet where the sun goes at night, and that it was inhabited and all this stuff. But they just treat it like a lucky guess, which is pathetic. And they all seem to be leaving out Plutarch's writing, which is kind of necessary if you want to pretend that Europeans didn't really know whereof they spoke. So that's good. I've been reading, where is it? Oh yeah, The Other World and the Antipodes, the myth of unknown countries between antiquity and the Renaissance, the Amazon myths. So anyway, like, the Antipodes, that really says it all, because Plato described the Antipodes, which were the people that live on the opposite side of the planet in the southwestern hemisphere, basically South America, whose feet are, relatively speaking, the soles of whose feet are pointed towards Europe. just as the soles of Europeans' feet are pointed relatively towards South America. So, although Asian feet really point to South America, that's the absolute antipodes. So anyway, this is a very important book. I'm going to get into this more in a bit, but first, or, in other days, but right now I'm focusing more on this, which is the Ancient Egyptian Book of Two Ways by Leonard H. Lesko. And so, mostly for my book is mostly about the Book of Two Ways, my book, The Beautiful West. And so my book was taken mostly from this book, which is Whale Sherbini's book about it, which is only from 2017. And but I ordered this to see if I could find a transliteration to find the actual Egyptian for the Book of Two Ways instead of just the translations. But once I got it, I found out this doesn't have the transliteration either. But this was the first book that ever really published the translation of the Book of Two Ways. This is from 1972, I believe. So, University of California Press. I guess he was at Berkeley doing graduate studies or something. Oh, 1973. I don't know, something like that. And so yeah, University of California. One funny thing that he mentions in here is the fact that the Book of Two Ways, like, it was named for the two coasts, because the maps of America, they show the two coasts, and one is black and one is blue, and so those are the two ways. But anyway, it was named by an Egyptologist in the 1800s named, I think it's in the 1800s, named Schackenberg. So I think that's the real story. Like, who the hell is named Schackenberg? It's awesome. Anyway, so this is the Book of Two Ways. It's interesting because this is this was the only book about the Book of Two Ways for 50 years, or I don't know, from 1973 till 2017 when Sherbini published his book. This was the only published book about it. And it's interesting that he publishes it because I think a lot of the reason, I was assuming a lot of the reason why the Book of Two Ways was never recognized as being a map of America is because it's oriented where west is up and east is down. And so people looking at it like this, which is at least the way the text is written, the only way to read the text is to read it like this, because that's the orientation. So so I was thinking, okay, that kind of makes sense, because we're only used to seeing it in modern maps with north being up. So it makes sense people wouldn't recognize it if west was up. But apparently in the only book that was ever really published about this, north is up. And honestly, that's the same in Sherbini, I think, to a large extent. A lot of his some of his are the real way, like this, with west being up, but a lot of his are the all his plates at the end are all with north being up. So, that wouldn't be an excuse for Lesko, that wouldn't be an excuse for Sherbini, and that wouldn't be an excuse for anybody who had consulted Lesko or Sherbini. Let me see. Trying to find the main. Okay, well, I guess this one does do it the original way. So this is like the map where he really shows where each spell is and where each label is. But as I said, in his major plates, all of them are shown with the modern orientation of north being up, simply because they're long, and so you can't really fit it on a tall page the other way. So, if you want to have a big picture, you have to either have north being up or north being down. And I think since in the coffins that these are painted inside, north is where the head of the deceased is. So in that sense, it kind of is up, even though according to the orientation of the text, it's not, but yeah, so they have all these different versions in here, and they're all with north being up. And so they don't really have that excuse to say like, oh, we couldn't recognize it because it was, west was up. Because if you look at these, that's not the case. Except in these, obviously. So this shows it with west being up. So if you want to read it, you have to look at it like this. And all the figures in it are most, or probably all, but definitely most of the figures, both human and divine, are, standing with this orientation with their heads up, pointing west, and their feet pointing east. So anyway, it's sad to know that there's no published transliteration of this. Like, there are public transliterations of the Book of the Dead, which give the actual spells in Egyptian, so you can see how they rhymed. Whereas this, they've kind of, you could say it's early days with this, because there's only really been 2 books about this book, about the Book of Two Ways, even though it's one of the most common funerary texts of ancient Egypt. There's at least 22 different books of two ways, but there's only 2 studies of it published in modern times. But one thing I wanted to talk about is just the fact that it really seems that it's not just a map of America, that it's also a map of the world. And it may in fact be that in this version, this is B5C, B3C. I'm not exactly sure. I don't exactly understand his description, but it seems that these might be in the same coffin, because he refers to a coffin that has 2, what he calls plans or maps or whatever these are, in the same coffin. So that might be this, because if we look at the spells and labels, right where this one goes up to 1130. It starts at 1080 or 10:07. I don't know. I'm not sure if he numbered these correctly, but according to him, it basically starts here, goes there, goes to here, and then it goes to here, because then it's like 1131 is here. So that would suggest like these are the two hemispheres. This is America. Of course, you know, this is Florida very recognizably. This is Hudson Bay at the top. This is, you know, Canada, Alaska, Canada, California, Western Mexico. And this is Central America right here, of course, where it's really thin. And South America down here. This is Brazil. This here, where it points in, is in Oaxaca. There's like the Isthmus of Tepecanec, or I forget what it's called. So this was considered to be one of the ways to cross from one sea to the other, I believe, was just where it's really thin right here in southern Mexico. And also, I think right here where there's a line that connects with the interior in the Gulf of California, that I think people would cross from the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of California or vice versa. But anyway, so if this is as it seems, it suggests that even though this is generally considered to be just a different version of this, it suggests to me that actually this is Afro-Eurasia. Like this is America, this is Afro-Eurasia. You know, I'd say maybe I mean, who knows exactly? Like maybe this is Africa. This is like Arabia. Who knows? You know, could be. I mean, I think these boxes are islands, so that's. But yeah, so I'm not yet sure what's what here. Like I know what's what here, even though a lot of this seems stylized or is basically inaccurate due to errors in the redaction of previous iterations of it. But with this one, I don't really know. I mean, it has like a human figure right here. So, you know, I think some maybe have speculated that's Osiris. But anyway, who knows? But there's like text that goes to each section, and there's the spells, and you know, there's one, the starry host is in Heliopolis, the sun people in Babylon. It's funny because he says this, he's like, oh, this can't be right because the sun people are in Heliopolis, because Heliopolis is the sun worship center. But what he doesn't get is that this is referring to stuff in the sky, like celestial. The starry host is the fixed stars, like what we call stars, and then the sun people are probably the planets. District of Stairway of Mercury. So I know that, okay, it talks about the ways of the guide of the ways of Rosetta. So Rosetta is basically Giza, where the Great Pyramid is. And so the ways of Rosetta, like this whole book is the ways of Rosetta. So I think these are the maps these are the routes that were probably um, described inside the Great Pyramids, um, both in the pyramid text and probably in papyri, which were looted.